Welcome to Grace Notes, the weekly community TV affairs show with Yorktown Supervisor Michael Grace. I'm your host, Bruce Apar of Chase Media Group. And the Supervisor Grace, there's not a lot of events coming up since we have Christmas and New Year's, right? Which is, it's always a really, obviously, nice time of year, the holiday season. And this year, as everybody painfully knows by now, it's really been tempered by everything that happened. In fact, something I think I know you would be great to comment on. You're even hearing now on TV saying this year it's less about presents and more about people.
Yeah. No, we're all very saddened and impacted by the events of last week. But it also emphasizes, maybe it's refocuses on what we should be focused on.
Right. Yes.
Which is family,
right,
and charity towards others.
Yes.
And goodwill. And it's important that the sentiments of this season are carried through us all year long. And,
right.
And tonight we'll have a nice. I think we look forward to a candlelight vigil over by the Christmas trees.
Yes.
In support of the neighbors over there in Connecticut.
Connecticut, yeah.
We need. It's very important for us to be focused on those things that are really, really important, and then we all have our differences, and we need to be respectful of everybody.
Right.
And we have to keep that going. And also I think what is a really important thing for all communities is to constantly stoke the fires of what it is to be a community.
Right.
And those things are very important. And we have to, we've made some good strides this year in doing that. And I think it's hopefully we can all get together and keep moving in that direction for Yorktown.
Yeah. And I know, you wanted this show to be about a year-end retrospective of what's happened in Yorktown during your first year in office and your first term. And to your point about Yorktown and that you very effectively and successfully have really drawn out people more than before. I mean, there's always been volunteers and there's always been really, really good people in this town. But it seems now they feel empowered. And the woman putting on the vigil. I mean, we're talking about Thursday, December 20th at 7 p.m. because you'll be seeing the show at all different times. And in this case, just a Yorktown citizen took it on herself, right, to pull this together.
Right. And what's nice about it is that those things can happen now. In other words, I tell everyone I feel like more, the water boy than anything else. It's a matter of just carrying the water for everybody to make sure that they can do it. And pour the water on the plant and it becomes alive. Right. And I think that's what. And I think when I envision the role of government in these things, I think that's what it is, to facilitate and to nurture what is there in the community anyhow. Because I'm not going to accomplish it on my own. Right. Nor is government going to accomplish it on its own. What you need is to nurture what is really out there, and Yorktown has great people in it, and great organizations, and just by nurturing them, giving them a venue, facilitating them in every which way we can, and supporting them, is a very, very important aspect of local town government. It is very important.
Right.
And I think tonight, at the vigil, we will see a lot of the community out there, the faith-based organizations. Right. A lot of the different civic organizations all in support, and it's a great, it is really a good thing for everyone. The Christmas parade and the tree lighting this year was a good example of trying to build community, and those things are extremely important for all of us. It gives a boost in our morale. It gives a boost in the activity, the positive activity in the town. It brings us all together. That night was a great night, and it's just pausing to think about the significance of tonight. Well, we're going to do it at the Christmas trees, where the Christmas trees were planted.
Right.
And even that night, I always say, light is always a very symbolic of the divine's intercession in our lives. It's in Hanukkah, it's the
Festival of lights,
right, and it's the miracle of the oils,
Right.
and keeping the light
That's right.
burning. Christianity has the nativity star. It's always very symbolic of God's intercession in humanity. So and the same way we light candles in a vigil. So I think it's a very appropriate place to have it.
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
And it, actually, when you go there, I always thought they'd be kind of nice to have the trees more in a central location in town. But having them over there, it's very peaceful, and it's very serene, and it's very.
And they're also what's nice about over there is they're very visible. You have this big expanse, and everybody can see them, and it's dramatic.
Yeah, and I think it's so it's good. I think it's that's what the light is. It's a symbol of hope. It's a symbol of divine work. In our lives,
right.
Which I think is a very important message to constantly get out there.
Right.
Is that we respect everyone, believing that they have divinity in them. It keeps us humble. It keeps our hubris and arrogance in check.
Right.
It fosters respect for everyone on a genuine level. So these things, it's for me, and for all the people that have helped me over the year, I'm very proud of those accomplishments, in this first year, and I think it's important.
But isn't it true also? It's like you were saying before. There are times, and I know it's your belief. There are times that government simply needs to get out of people's way, right, and let them. But then there are other times that government needs to intervene. So on the subject of intervention, so to speak, you started off the year. I think it was the end of January 31, if my memory serves, with the emergency preparedness meeting, which, as fate would have it, later in the year, just recently, really came, into play.
Yeah, no, we started very early,
Right.
and we started very early because of the experience we had the year before with Hurricane Irene and Irene, right? Yeah, I get Irene, it's Irene, and the October the Halloween snowstorm,
Yeah.
and all the trials and tribulations everybody went through in town. So we started off very early to make sure that we would be set if and when another emergency came into play. What was interesting about it, we did start a citizens emergency response team, which was headed up by Larry Eidelman of the Yorktown PD, who was very well trained in the National Incident Management Systems, NIMS, or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. And we were able to get that all in place. And I know during the training periods that they did have, I always thought, well, I'm a trial attorney, and I always think that I analogize them to the alternate jurors. Right. They sit through the whole thing, but they never actually do anything because they don't get to deliberate. But and I thought, well, this is great. You get volunteers who, are getting trained, but you may not ever be. You hope that they never get called to duty, but we never expected them to get called to duty so quickly. And with the training that they did have, with the reach out from the town to other to our at-risk communities, which was Jefferson Village and Beaver Ridge, and guiding them along in emergency management procedures, and having talked to them over the year about what needs to be done in terms of an emergency. All those at-risk communities were very well prepared for this, yes. And actually we touched base with them beforehand to make sure that they were. We identified not only our at-risk communities, but our at-risk citizens. We had identified our critical infrastructure, which we knew we had to focus on. And going into Hurricane Sandy, we really had a war plan in place.
Right. And
it worked very, very well.
Yeah.
And as a result, the town, as compared to most towns around here, was up and running a lot quicker. We subsequent to the storm have met with Con Ed and NYSEG. We are going to up the ante in terms of we did our own postmortem as well. It became very clear that the most important thing that we can do, we operated our Emergency Operations Center, our EOC as it's called, out of this boardroom. But we realized that the day-to-day operations, once the town got back into place, that this was an ideal location because it interfered, the regular operations of the town would interfere with the operations of the EOC and vice versa. Then came election day.
Right.
And this was a polling place, so we had to move the EOC from here to the PD, which also provided some logistic difficulties.
Right.
So as a result of that, we're very convinced that what we need to do is to have a EOC headquartered in its own location that's separated from the day-to-day operations of the town.
Right.
And the day-to-day operations of the PD. You can't put it in the middle of the PD because the PD still has to function. So having people coming in and out on an EOC or doing the things that an EOC needs to do does interfere with the functioning of the PD.
Right.
So you don't want it inside the PD. You work with the PD, but you don't want the operations inside the PD.
And is there a location that's been identified?
Yes, there was a location that had been identified even prior to my administration, which was a room underneath the courthouse, which is connected to the PD.
Right.
It has all the communications ability. It's very easily adaptable to it. Unfortunately, I think the last administration had some money that would have been set aside. That the chief was successful in getting some grant money in order to do that, and that was fumbled by the Siegel administration, which was unfortunate. So we're trying to get that grant money back to do it the right way. Right. We also are looking at implementing a software program as well that identifies all the different utility infrastructure, and that being poles, transformers, the electrical transmission backbones, so that we have that when in the first 12 hours or 24 hours of the storm, we can start to map and identify where things are, where the infrastructure is fractured. Right. And where trees may be down, because it's important so that then our emergency response services, such as EMT and fire and everything else, can know where a road is blocked, so they don't go down a road, find it's blocked, have to make U-turns, go back to. Right. So
that would be helpful. So is it like a GPS based?
Yeah, and it's actually GIS, so it'll overlap the GIS, but it'll be live and active, up to very current information. It'll identify if it's a pole down, it's a tree down, it's a pole with wires, it's a tree with wires, whatever it is, and we'll code it so that that information, as it comes to us, will be databased immediately. So that will help. But we also are looking towards, we didn't get the rain this time, right? And so we really need to database the drainage infrastructure, right, including culverts. Identifying where major collection systems are. So if you do have a heavy rain, that the pre-storm, we can go out and make sure that we're cleared. That debris hasn't fallen in there, so we can do a storm prep, and then if we know that if we experience flooding in certain locations, we can know where we have to go to unclog whatever may be clogged. Right. So we're stepping up our game as far as that goes.
You're saying that's new software that the town acquired?
We're actually going to develop it in-house.
Oh.
So we're developing it in-house in conjunction with Bruce Barber, who's our environmental officer, and some computer people. So I think we're going to start to develop that. And we've also talking to the utility companies as to whether they want to help in making that investment, because it feeds them information as well. They have to do their own assessment, but when they have our assessment, it's a lot easier. And when they have to bring crews in from outside, they have it, on the GIS, then they don't have to necessarily use their infrastructure maps to find roads. They'll have the roads and the infrastructure map at the same time, because we're out there with NYSEG, and they know everything on their map is based upon poles and pole numbers, and the street information is faded in the background. Right. So a lot of they follow their lines. They don't follow their roads. But we had a lot of situations where we said, "Oh, we know where you need to go," and we had a police escort to get them there. Right. But we like to have the information in their form, and I think they should have our information in our form so that they can
combine it.
Yeah.
Right.
So and I think it also helps in the post storm information dissemination is if the public is aware that it's not just a line down, but this infrastructure is down. And they can get live damage information that we have. They can get a better understanding of what it entails. A lot of people have underground utilities and they don't know why they're out of power.
Right.
Well, we can identify the overhead lines that feed the underground lines, and it's aware that infrastructure has been damaged, so they understand that this is what has to be fixed. So if they don't see somebody in their neighborhood, they may see somebody in the backwoods, but that's where the line comes in. So.
Right. Now, of course, you weren't supervisor in 2011, but is the general consensus by people who have been around, like the YPD, that the utilities were more responsive or have become more responsive? Or?
Well, I think what helped a lot this time around is that we were prepared.
Right.
And I think our preparation certainly helped them in their job.
Right.
Having the EOC, having a command and control and a war plan helped tremendously in allowing them to accomplish what they needed to accomplish. As for instance, we had where certain infrastructure was damaged, we were able to send a PD detail to do traffic control, so the utility didn't have to do traffic control. We didn't have to spend, the linemen could be doing line work rather than doing traffic control.
Yes. Yeah.
We also sent out a highway detail with them as well, so that they didn't have to. The heavy stuff could be moved by us, and they could again move on.
Right.
So the coordination between our resources and the utility resources is what worked very well this time.
Made them more efficient.
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And so and then we very consciously decided on a chain of command. So this became our basis of operations, not only for the EOC but also the communication out. So we ran the shows on a schedule, on somewhat of a scheduled basis. We were able to then. For Jefferson Village and Beaver Ridge, we actually ran a bus loop to pick people up to bring them to the shelter, which was on. And we were able to establish a schedule for dry ice pickup. We were able to have to schedule our drivers to pick it up and have drop off locations. At the drop off locations in time, we had. PD or auxiliary police, controlling the situation. So a lot of our preparation went into making this thing run very well, and I was very happy about it. There were places where we could improve, and we're looking at that. But I think overall we did extremely well. Jefferson Village got up running very quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Beaver Ridge got up running very quickly. Right. We got our shelter on its own power fairly quickly. The shelter ran very well. We had over 1,000 people visit it over the period of the storm. A couple hundred that actually stayed overnight. It was well staffed. It was friendly. They had good food. Actually, people calling up to see what was on the menu at a certain point. But we had one lady in Beaver Ridge who, when they got the power up, we stopped running the shuttle. And it was very disappointed because she was having such a nice time going to the shelter. She still wanted to be picked up and brought over to the shelter from Beaver Ridge because of the camaraderie. So
nice.
So I think we did a bang up job on it, and it's a tribute to a lot of different people. And we had a night here at the town board meeting where we gave out a lot of certificates of appreciation to those people that did contribute.
Right.
But what we also did, we tried to keep one of the communication coming only from the EOC headquarters, which helped a lot. We had a division of labor between those elected officials that were here on hand. So the people that were physically here in the town, which was Dave Paganelli and Terrence Murphy, were assigned certain sectors in which they interacted with one voice and a consistent message, which helped an awful lot. Terrence did a bang-up job up at Jefferson Village, Dave Paganelli at Beaver Ridge, and where we needed to go, we sent out either one of them to a particular neighborhood to bring up updates. But there wasn't a lot of cross-communication, counter-communications, or miscommunications. It was really so, and that helped an awful lot.
Right.
So it was, I could go down the whole long list of people that contributed to the smooth operation, but obviously I'll probably leave some people out. But I mean, generically, the highway department, the PD, our CERT team, and basically our emergency preparedness staff, and our training and our preparation long before this event even was on the map, went a long way to make this one very smoothly. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm very glad that we started this thing in January of this year, because we were very well prepared, and the next time we'll even be better prepared.
Well, it's, that expression comes to mind: forewarned is forearmed, right?
Yeah, no, it was very good. The other things that I think this, this year was an interesting year. We started off with a lot of different initiatives. My first year in government, I always thought that government was, works at a little frustratingly slow pace. So now I can experience firsthand. But we're going to, re-energize some of those initiatives, and one that is very dear to you and very dear to me as well. Is that Yorktown Organizations United, and we had a couple of very good meetings that were very well received by a lot of different people. We have a Organizations United Facebook.
Website should be ready right about now.
Yeah, and we could get that, and I think we need to constantly rekindle that. I think that the response to the Christmas parade, and I think what you'll see tonight at the vigil, is all a tribute to some of that work that we did.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think now it's just a matter going into the the next phase in 2013 is drilling down to very specific projects with specific results in mind. Right?
Yeah,
I mean that's what it is. And but I know also, Supervisor, it's worth mentioning, I think, on a wholly other topic that comes to mind in the year in review is like the Holland Sporting Club, because that's a good example of how, with the rest of the town board, you were able to save the town money, right?
Yeah, no, we've done a lot of things that way.
Like that, and that's sort of emblematic of it.
It's been a good year, I think. I mean, we getting that down. We had a good community day up there, doing a lot of cleanup even after the town did its work up there. We're looking at the Granite Knolls. We're going to be taking that down in-house as well. That's going to save us some money. I think that the first estimate was about $250,000 to get these projects done. I think we're going to have both projects done for less than $80,000 to $70,000, so which is very good. We've been getting great cooperation from the highway department. They've been working very hard. So things, we are. We even with the post-Sandy cleanup. I know people out there right now, patients are running thin on it. We have certain legal requirements in terms of engaging outside contractors to come in and help clean up, especially if we're looking for reimbursement from FEMA. So, and that ran into some snags because of some of the requirements. Hopefully, when the highway's been out there cleaning up, and now the second round of cleanup is going to come, we are going to get a logging truck in there, because it actually is going to expedite things and make things cheaper. And then it's going to take time. There's some there's some trees that have been uprooted, and very large trees with very large root balls. That's a whole nother issue and process, but we'll eventually get there. I think. This town board has been very conscious of how we go about things. They're taking a fresh, a different look at how we approach things, with the viewpoint that I think we can accomplish the same things, and sometimes more things get done with a lot less money. One of those issues which seem to have ruffled a lot of feathers was the new garbage contract.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I'll today, just this afternoon, we got a decision from the court.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the lawsuit that was brought by our present hauler against the town and the new incoming hauler, trying to upset the award of the bid to the new hauler. that petition by our current hauler was denied.
Oh, okay.
So the court found that what we did was absolutely, and it did not upset the award of their bid to Competition Catering.
Right.
We are very confident that the new hauler will be able to perform.
Get the job done.
Get the job done. And actually, they're going to be wearing uniforms, which so you'll know.
Just like in the old days. Well, just like in the old days. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll actually. So they're very enthusiastic about doing it. What's nice about someone coming in like fresh is that they have a lot of enthusiasm.
Yes, right.
About
That's
getting
right.
the job done, improving themselves.
Yes. Right.
So
especially after this very public controversy.
Yeah. So I think it'll be I think it'll work very well. We're looking forward for them to come on board. And it was not insignificant in terms of savings. It was at $800,000 savings to the taxpayers.
Right. Yeah.
And if without that, you'd have a tax increase this year. So that was with that,
Right.
and with taking a kind of a fresh look at the at some of the special districts and their fundings. We were able to come in with a budget that decreased everybody's taxes this year.
Right.
And what was funny about this year's budget was that there was a lot of focus on a new term that came out of the budget process was this term ADL.
Yes, right.
which is the three identifies three budgets,
Right.
which is the general A D highway, and L library, so the ADL. And the focus on the ADL was because all properties pay taxes into those ADLs, and that really makes up the line on your tax bill that says town tax.
Right.
The thing is that also what you every residential piece of property is in the special refuse district. So if you're a resident, you pay ADL and special refuse. Actually, the special refuse is a garbage collection, and special refuse used to be part of the A budget, but was spun out into its own budget line.
Right.
Commercial properties didn't participate in the special refuse. Commercial properties have to independently contract with a hauler, have their garbage removed. Town doesn't remove commercial garbage. So every residential property is in the ADL and special refuse, and so you've seen the savings in the special refuse completely offset any increases in the ADL. And the one thing that did produce an increase in the A line was the fact that we settled. There's 4 years of PBA salaries that had to be paid based upon a settlement of a PBA contract, which had 3 years. It was kicked down the road for 3 years.
Right.
So the A line's salary, the basis in the A budget for police salaries was based upon what they were getting paid in 2009.
Right.
And we have to pay them based upon settling the contract for what's going to be their 2013 salary, which includes the increase for 10, 11, 12, and then 13. So it was 4 years of salary increases. With that in the budget, it was a significant jump in the A line, because of the salaries went from 2009 level to the 2013 level, and so and that was a significant hit, which my administration inherited, because I could say, look, what a lot of administrations would do is say, look, you know what, I'm not going to settle it. They'll kick it down the road again, and then you can go to arbitration, and then we'll settle it at a later date. And once you get an arbiter's decision on what salaries increases you have to give, well, then you can turn around and say, well, it wasn't my decision, it's the arbiter's decision, and that's the way. And you dodge dodge the political heat on it. But we addressed it. We hit it head on. We got I think a very good agreement. A good agreement is maybe not getting everything that we wanted, and the PBA not getting everything they wanted. But a good agreement, it was I consider it to be a fair and equitable agreement based upon what you can anticipate an arbiter giving, based on a whole set of factors that we have to consider. We also settled 2 years back on a CSEA contract. So all these things added to the underlying budget line, but still with all that, we were able to get your taxes down. Then with the special improvement districts, we took a look at that, and we took a look at what they were doing and how those things were being funded. which was not has not been, and obviously has not been a focus of any prior town board. They just, God knows, my responsibility over the special district budgets is the same as my responsibility over the ADL line. So we took a very careful look at that, and we were able to find significant savings for the taxpayers in those special improvement district budgets. So. And that has something that hadn't been done before. So there was some of my colleagues, or one colleague on the Nick Bianco, who says, "Oh well, you got a tax increase in the town tax of 4.71%." Yeah, and that's what we look. That's what we always have been basing it on. We always look at the ADL, and you know what? That's right. You never focused on the other special improvement districts, which you had an obligation to do in the past, and you needed to look at them as well. So. The savings in the garbage contract is a special district.
Right.
Well, it's $800,000 savings. So my job is to take a look at all those things as well as your ADL, because at the end of the day, that's what you're reaching in your pocket to pay.
Right.
So as a result of that, we were able to reduce in the water levy, water district levy. So anybody that's getting any water, town water, your taxes are going down almost 3%.
Yeah.
And every commercial property in the town of Yorktown is on municipal water. I can guarantee you that. I can't imagine any commercial piece of property not being within the water district. They all are. So they're seeing that savings. So our commercial tax base is seeing a savings. Our residential tax base is seeing a savings. And all those residential properties that are maybe outside the special districts, which are just then paying into the ADL and the special refuse, are also seeing a savings.
Right.
So there's not a property in the town of Yorktown that's not receiving a savings for next year.
Right.
I also would have confidence to say there's probably not a town in the state of New York, or probably in the country, that is actually seeing their taxes going down.
Yeah.
So
Fair statement.
Yeah, and I think that's I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
So
and something I want to bring up too, because it has its own significance, and it has nothing to do with finances or any of these other things, or even really politics. But I know coming into office, one thing that was sort of a little bit of a pet peeve of yours was the 3-minute rule at courtesy of the floor, which actually is for you and the rest of the town board the one time in a formal sense that you have direct interaction with your constituents, other than being out, in the community and talking to people. But it's very formalized at town board meetings, courtesy of the floor. People walk up to that podium and they could say pretty much whatever they want to say, and there was always a 3-minute maximum. And I know you felt you wanted to see what it would be like if you abolished the 3-minute rule, right? So why don't we you talk about your experience with that?
I'm going to tell you, I think it works successfully, and then I think if my recollection serves me correct, we had a big DPW distraction over a couple of months, if you remember. Of course, yeah. And the thing is we had
that just so we can summarize for people going back several months. That was when a certain group of people in Yorktown wanted to see a Department of Public Works created, and for the what is now the highway superintendent position, to be appointed instead of elected.
Yeah, and it's funny because Ossining, actually, the referendum that the people, citizens for DPW, wanted to put on the ballot for the Yorktown this November, which we got a lot of criticism to give us our right to vote, and it was sort of your right to vote to eliminate a position that you could vote for in the future was what they were looking. So you got to right to vote. Well, you have the right to vote for the highway superintendent, and you want to take that right away. I don't, that was a little bit of the debate.
Right. Yes.
Ossining actually went ahead and got it on the ballot. They wanted to do the same thing, and that was defeated in Ossining. Ossining has retained the elected position, which is kind of interesting because I think the result would have probably been the same. Yeah. But the bottom line with that, if it wasn't the same, then we would be forced into a different kind of situation coming next year. And we took what the DPW said, very seriously. We did our analysis. We went back to our department heads. We had a very long town board meeting here with the department heads explaining exactly what they do, what the different departments do, which was it was educational, not only for the public, but actually for people on the town board as well, that didn't realize what a lot of these people did. And as a result of that, we very rightfully concluded that moving from the system that we have now to a DPW would have cost the town money.
Right.
Wouldn't have saved the town money, would have cost the town money for a lot of different reasons that were not considered, or a lot of the consequential afterthought. It was like everything had, the unanticipated consequences of doing something. We actually brought those things into the discussion, showed, this is going to cost us money, and a lot of the things that the DPW had in mind as far as eliminating managerial positions and getting rid of positions, you couldn't do.
Right.
It was not possible to do. So a lot of the assumptions were incorrect. When the prior study was done in 1995, the upper management of town had a different configuration. It was an engineering department with 2 engineers, a whole different other things. So a lot of the assumptions that they used in the discussion today were from 1995, when the makeup of the town was completely different.
Right.
So it didn't make a lot of sense. But I think at a certain point in time, getting back to the original question, which was the 3-minute rule, everybody was everybody was tugging on my sleeve to say, you got to cut this out, because people are just going on and on and on. Right. And I think at a couple of meetings it did get a little bit out of hand. There were a few meetings, and I can't recollect what they were, but they were getting everything was getting so. We kind of went back to it for a little bit, but we really haven't kind of strictly enforced it. And
what do you mean you haven't enforced the 3-minute rule?
We really have not. Yeah,
so it's sort of a modified 3-minute rule.
We kind of, if we understand, if we have a busy night, we kind of try to hold people to it. There are some regulars that can go on, so we for those regulars we kind of remind them. We do have I think the other night Alice brought out the timer just in case. And so, but we really haven't strictly enforced it. And in retrospect, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think again, if it's respectful dialogue, I really don't care how long it goes on.
Right.
If it's going to be shrill, if it's going to be grandstanding, then that should be limited to as well. But that goes for board members as well as the public.
Yeah, that's right. But I guess you found that for the most part, with always going to be a couple of exceptions, people were self-policing themselves.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You get every once in a while, a cat call from the audience asking us to tell somebody to cut it short and this, that, and the other thing. But I think for my purposes, I want to be engaged. If somebody comes up, I want to make sure I understand what they're saying. I also want to make sure that what they're saying is, that they're corrected, because we had some points in time. I mean, we had somebody with the winery at one time saying you're paving over wetlands. Well, no, I'm not paving over wetlands, and so that's a misinformation. So if I'm, if you're going to get up on a podium and give out misinformation, I don't think I should sit there and say, fine, let it all roll, because no, you need to correct it, because if that's the assumption that they're making, and that's the basis of their criticism, well, they should be corrected so that now their criticism can be based on the real facts rather than the assumptions.
Right.
I know some people don't like that, but the thing is that you got to be careful about hyperbole.
No, absolutely. And then like you say, and then it only perpetuates itself. And then more and more people have the wrong information.
Right. And it gets inflamed.
Right.
And so. It's trying to keep everybody's focus, but that's just the public's also the board. We had a somewhat contentious meeting on Tuesday night, maybe it was a change in the parking regulations, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to create one of my plans where it was very pro business. It's not in terms of revitalizing the commercial base that does exist.
Right.
It's very important. It's not to cut something out whole cloth, but to really to focus on the commercial base that's out there that's failing or ailing, and you need to revitalize it. So, and those commercial bases can be readily identified. It's the south side of 202.
Right.
And so Jefferson Valley Mall, which is, needs a good shot in the arm. And it's the hamlet areas.
Right.
And both my experiences as prior town attorney, and my experiences being in private business and having commercial property and dealing with people that do have commercial property as clients, et cetera, et cetera. There are things that drive. There are ways you can incentivize private development.
Yes. Right.
And one of the things is by taking a look at your rules and regulations and see where did they hinder, where did a lot of these regulations were put in place 30 years ago,
right,
with a certain impetus, and intent and purpose, which the assumptions which may no longer hold true. So you have to do a constant re-examination of that regulatory infrastructure to make sure that it is consistent with what what the market
right.
bears and what good modern planning dictates. One of the things we require 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of commercial space, usually for most commercial uses, most commercial districts. Creates an enormous amount of parking that most commercial developers don't want. Commercial developers, when they go to develop a piece of property, they do it for tenants, and they know what their tenants require in terms of parking. If they don't provide enough parking, the tenants are not going to rent from them. But they really don't want to create excess parking because it serves no purpose.
Right.
And if you can do on the same development, on the same square of property that you're developing, if you're creating parking or requiring parking that you really don't need or that the commercial owner doesn't even want, what you're doing is you're creating more parking lot and less building.
Right.
Where you could have more, if you could change that ratio, so that you can have, for the parking space doesn't produce income.
I was going to say that there's no direct revenue from the parking space. Yeah,
the building does.
Right.
And the commercial rateable is based upon the capitalization of the income out of the building.
And retailers' whole business model is based on return per square foot.
Right.
Right.
So if you can increase that, not only for the same piece of developed 4 corners of developed property, whether it be building or parking, if you can slightly change that ratio to what really is good planning, the town ends up. You're going to end up. You may have the same total impervious area,
right?
But you have more building and less parking, so you have more revenue,
right?
And also, what it does is incentivize a redevelopment of the property because I'll redevelop the property. Why should I redevelop it if all I'm going to do is get out of it what I have into it now, which doesn't produce enough to make it worth viable? I can. Right. So there are things that you can do. Mall is a good example. We're changing the parking regulations of the mall based upon what really is the. After malls, the Jefferson Valley Mall is one of the first malls that was probably built, back in the 70s. Right? So that's when, they had certain design criteria that they had in their mind when they built it. History tells them now, after 30 years of people operating malls from coast to coast, they can hone in exactly on what they need and not what was assumptions that were made.
Right.
So based upon that history, they can dial that in. So we should change our code to dial that in so they can then become, they want to make a reinvestment. We want to see a reinvestment in that place. It's not creating new commercial space. It's taking that with the existing commercial tax base and actually making it thrive again. 202 becomes another example. There's a big, there's a lot of controversy over Costco.
Costco, right, of course.
Yeah. Well, unequivocally, I'm for it. Right. Because the thing is that you need to. It's going to bring improvements on the roadway. It's going to bring improvements onto 202 that otherwise wouldn't be made. There's a public-private partnership in terms of doing infrastructure improvements. I got a site that's already a dilapidated hotel anyhow, right? Which is an eyesore. Vermin is in. So I mean. It's going, and the thing is, it's not, as say if it's a big box, it's 150,000 square feet. Give you in perspective, the mall's 600,000 square feet. Right. There's over 1 million square feet of retail space in the Cortland Town Center.
Yeah.
This is just so it's not paving over Yorktown. It's not not doing all these things. It's really it's a finite, but it's going to pump private dollars into the town. That's going to, go towards public infrastructure. It's also going to start to prove it revitalizes that commercial tax base, which was a commercial piece to begin with. It also, my hope is it does incentivize further investment into 202.
I'm sure it will. That's the way that works, Yeah.
And for everyone else out there that has a lot of concerns, which I don't, there's a lot of validity to that.
Yeah, concerns. No, you have to take them seriously.
Yeah. They should understand that there's 500 acres of open space on the north side of 202, which is publicly held, which will never be developed. It's parkland.
Right.
So it's not, when 202 is never going to be Route 100. Nobody wants it to be Central Avenue, whatever it is. It's never going to be there.
Right.
The amount of development that can go on 202 is very finite.
Right.
But the thing is, to allow the finite pieces to be developed or redeveloped, it will improve life, in the town of Yorktown.
Right.
We have a lot of the opposition to Costco is driven by the gas stations up here. There's a lot of the gas stations in Yorktown and around here are owned by a company and companies that are related to each other.
Right.
And if you look, gas prices in the town of Yorktown are probably 5 to 10 cents higher than they are anywhere else because
at least
it's only a small group that own all the gas stations.
Right.
So they can basically set their price without fear of much competition. Costco proposes to put in to sell gas. And I'm going to tell you that who's out there most vociferous against Costco are the gas station owners and the people that are related to the gas station owners.
Or in their employ.
Or an employee, yeah. So we got one guy that's has a land lease with one of the gas stations in the town of Yorktown, and he's very vocal at all these meetings because he's got the gas station has a land lease with them. It expires in 2 years, so I imagine that's going to be renegotiated if Costco gets gas. So his skin in the game is and which is. I got no problem with that, because I think that's what you do. You have to be
defend yourself, defend your
vociferous
business.
about your interests. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the town board or the planning board is in a different position. The town board and the planning is not here to keep one particular business in business over another business. Competition is good. Costco can come in and sell gas. It's going to drive down the price of gas for everyone. If they compete with some other businesses in terms of other goods and services, it may drive the competition in those. And the bottom line is the town has to allow for the reasonable development of a property owner's property, which if the property is owned by someone and it's a reasonable development, fits within the code, the town really doesn't have much choice. You can tweak it, but you can't deny it. On the other hand, in order to, I think it is really very, very important is that the small businesses, of which I am a small business, you have to encourage them. You have to give them breaks. You have to be able to let them thrive.
Absolutely, yes.
And the way you do it is you take a look at your regulatory infrastructure. How is it that I can create a better atmosphere for the investment or for them to hold on to their properties? Well, I can do it by decreasing their taxes. Trying to decrease their overhead, making it easy to redevelop their property, making it easy to, to use their property, utilize their property. So we can do that, and we are. There's a parallel track going on here, and we are doing that. It doesn't get as much play as does a Costco. It sometimes goes under the radar screen. But we're doing that, and you will start to see the results. And one of those things is reducing the parking requirements in commercial districts. You're going to see that's going to prompt an investment or reinvestment in our commercial tax base.
So what's going to go? It's going to go from, we say, 5 per 1,000?
5 to 4, and it makes a difference. You're talking about space for where it's a
150,000 square feet. That's 150 spaces.
Yeah. But it's significant because you don't. You're going to have if you're going to develop a piece of property, and is basically the overall coverage, between parking lot and building,
Right.
is going to be X.
Right.
If the parking shrinks, the building can be more.
Right.
All right. Well, that gives a better return on the property, but which also makes its property it's a bigger rateable to the town.
Yes. Right.
And what are you exchanging? You're exchanging parking areas, which are nobody under any modern planning. Our requirements are excessive,
Right.
So they're excessive anyhow. And it may have been a good thing to do when the town was first being built, or when the town was being developed, that you wanted to see.
Right.
But over time, that we have a certain amount of wisdom of looking back and see how does this work, and it really doesn't.
Right.
You want to encourage pedestrian movements. You don't want to.
Right.
So the town didn't have sidewalks 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
Literally did not.
Yep.
The sidewalks that were put in the Heights area were done with CDBG money under the Cooper administration.
Right. I remember.
All right. So
Yeah.
we've invested in sidewalks. We're still investing in sidewalks. We want you to get out and we want you to walk. What forces so all these things, that's where we got to move towards. The people for smart growth in Yorktown too are constantly encouraging. They want hamlet development. They want small.
And so do you, right?
Yes, and
Right.
this is the
Same
way
thing you want.
This is the way you do it,
Right.
And that now the criticism, this is going to help somebody's property. Yeah, that's what it's
the
exactly
idea.
what we want. Isn't
Right.
this what we want to do?
Right.
And if you don't want, the discussions have to be honest. If you just don't want anything, then just say that you don't
Right.
want anything. I've got no problem with your point of view, but don't. One of the discussions coming out from other night was, these parking regulations may help Costco. Yeah, they may. But
And
you're going to get
what's wrong with that?
So 150 less spaces that you're going to force them to put a gun to the head to put 150 spaces that are never going to be used.
Right.
I mean, if you can go to most parking lots in the town of Yorktown and see that they're empty most of the time.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, Turco's isn't. Well, that's great.
Yeah, we know what the problem is. It's not that there aren't enough spots. It's that we have to do something to get people who can't park within the lines and take up 2 spaces. Right. You have that too.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
people they're parking straddling a line, and then you don't have another space. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm assuming, Supervisor, the empirical evidence is what you're saying is that there's not going to be a shortage of spaces.
No,
Right.
no. And what we're trying to do is, we're trying to incentivize, removing the pedestrian barriers between different commercial pieces of property.
Right.
And creating stairwells or pathways between different properties so that you can park one place, walk to another place. And somebody says, well, why do I want somebody to park over there? And then why should I have your customer park in my parking lot? Yeah. The bottom line is sometimes my customer is going to be parking in your parking lot.
It all evens out. Yeah.
So, but there are things that we can do, and we're taking a look. I promised to look at the regulatory infrastructure, and we have been looking at the regulatory infrastructure.
Yeah, right.
And we're hopefully going to change it, and I think it's going to be very positive for the town.
I mean, and just again, not that we really want to start singling out businesses, but let's face it, the winery has gotten a lot of press and been high profile in different ways and for different reasons. But as we've seen just this week between the two of us, there was a great Chamber of Commerce holiday event there Monday night. I mean, the place was packed. People had a great time, and then you were at one of their many Christmas tree lightings the other night. I mean, the point being that the winery for a lot of people is a really nice destination that is new to Yorktown in the last few years, and it's unique.
Yeah, and it's he's God bless him, and I hope he does great business there. It is every time I go into that place, I scratch my head to think that the town gave this gentleman such a hard time for such a long time.
It really is.
When this was
Right.
and this is the stuff that
Right.
one of the impetuses of getting involved, because this stuff it filters in. I'm a small business here. You know what? The fact that he hurts up there hurts me in New Yorktown Heights.
Right.
In my business.
Yes.
And
right.
it sours everybody's attitude, because you get people in, well, I'm not going to. Why do I invest in this town when this is what they do to a really a project that is, by all intents and purposes, a great project, a unique project, something that most towns would envy to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a preservation of a historical building, both inside and out. creating an incredible place for people to for the incredible talent that they have there and showcase there. It's just been he did that 100th anniversary of the church was unbelievable, and you had incredible local talent that got showcased.
That's right.
During that,
and they're doing more of that,
including our own Judge Sal Ligonia.
That's right.
With Daisy Joplin,
who plays a mean trumpet.
Right. So. It's become a great venue. I'm going to tell you what's also coming out of that. Through that, it's up. It's up the ante for our own YCC theater. So I'm working with Barry Liebman.
Yeah, Barry Liebman. That's right.
And he's, we're going to next year. One of the things we're going to roll out is an arts council.
Right.
So we're going to
try and get movies in there, and
start to get start to tap into.
Right.
We talked to the Lions who put on the summer concerts, and we're telling them, well, they spent a lot of money to bring in talent from all over the place. We're telling them, hey, guys,
local talent,
got a lot of local talent,
absolutely,
blow anybody's doors off.
Right.
So it's really getting all the there's a lot of moving parts out there to get them to start to come together and mesh and work smoothly is a great thing. But what the winery has brought to the town is not just that it's within the confines of their building.
No,
but
absolutely.
It's spilled all over. It's a positive effect all over the place.
Well, actually, I didn't think of it. I didn't mean it this way, because it's a church. But it really does have a halo effect, in terms of business. It really does, And in terms of, like we're saying, just the goodwill and the spirit, that it projects, that radiates.
The other thing, out of that, we decided we've now decided to also, take a look at our, wetlands to create wetlands parks. And I think one of the first wetland parks that's going to be created is next to the winery.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's you start to see the synergetic effect of these things happening.
Right.
And this is this is what I wanted to bring to the town.
Right.
Before that,
and you have,
if you constantly create dead ends and you box things in and you say no and you block, what happens is you get what the town where the town was going, which was becoming moribund. It didn't. The spirit was dying. In every respect, and it's not just the spirit in the business community or the people looking to invest in the town,
right?
But it's what we started off the conversation off in the beginning. It's the whole, when people see positive things or positive attitudes or willing to engage,
right?
Get rid of the 3-minute. I'm willing to engage with you. I'm willing to engage with the community. I'm willing to get out there. I'm willing to, things start to move in a positive direction for everybody.
Right. They respond in kind. Yeah. That's what happens.
And then I go back to my analogy. I become the water boy.
Or the Pied Piper, as the case may be.
It's just a matter of bringing the water to the plant and letting it grow. And I think that's where government should be. Government shouldn't be. Government should be the facilitator. We all have to be mindful of the environment and the safety and everything, all those regulations, and we do. And we want a certain design in the town, we want a certain plan of development in the town, and we want to keep things within the confines of that. We want to make sure that people cooperate with that, do the right thing, but we want to encourage them. We don't want to use. We don't want to use those regulatory powers as a club.
No, absolutely not.
No, we want to use them.
Well, that's the part where I was saying before. That's the part where government should get out of the way.
Yeah. And the tendency over time is that you get entrenched in I'm using this as a club.
Right.
And rather than really being, I'll go back to rather than being, you being the water boys of bringing the water, bringing the nourishment in. So I think. Overall, I look over the past year. I think we've done and accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
I think we've successfully changed the tone of things, the atmosphere of things. There were a lot of distractions. I think the DPW was a major distraction. Then we got into the summer months and things got a little bit slow. Then we ended up in budget. Then we ended up in Sandy. Then we ended back in the budget. We had a major change in the controller's position, which also was it's really funny how you can, it's trying, I think I'm looking forward to next year in the sense that I don't have to deal with a lot of
some of those things are behind you now.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that was just really complete and utter distractions that really, sapped us all of our energy and our focus. And I don't think they were intended to cause misdirection, but that's what happened. So we've been through that. The DPW, issue hopefully is put to rest. We went from that, we went to the controller. And then the controller's position, and then with her, taking the money, and then the lawsuit, and then and this became fodder for a while for everybody. And I'm going to tell you, I run into the gentleman at Newcastle, and he tells me he's very happy to have our controller down there.
Everybody wins.
I tell him I'm very happy you have her as well. I mean, because it worked out well for us.
Right.
We've got when I got in here, I think it was 3 days after I got in here, the things that were going on up there, and this is stuff that doesn't, isn't, this is, the undergarments of government.
Underneath the kimono, as they like to say. Right.
But, the way things were running up there was, to me, just completely inefficient. It was a clog on everything. And it was day 3, I said, we need procurement software. We had a purchase order system that allowed for blanket purchase orders, which then defeated the whole purpose of a purchase order system. I came into town and said, I want to see what's open on our purchase orders. We have $4 million of open purchase orders. I said, and I looked through them, and everything ends in an exact dollar amount, 5,000, 10,000. Well, has everything just cost us to the zero? I mean, that's what a coincidence. I find out, no. What we do is we give out blanket purchase orders, and you go get. And so now, the complaint is somebody wants to get a bill paid. We haven't gotten a bill paid. I got bills still up there from 2011. Well, we haven't gotten a bill paid. We haven't a bill paid. And I said, well. And I'm saying, well, how can you? Did we receive the service of the good? And why isn't it? Can't leave a vendor out there not getting paid. Right. Well, we didn't get the bill. And I'm thinking, well, how do you mean we don't get the bill? I mean, if you purchased it and you knew you purchased it, and somebody put in a requisition in the purchase order,
send you a bill.
You say, look, I got this outstanding purchase order for $325.60. And it's still sitting out there. So, and this the purchase order gets old. You sit there and go, wait a second. This was a purchase order, created for this particular purchase. Did we never, ever get it? Or this should be canceled then? And the money put back into the budget. So, no, but if you do it by blanket, you have no idea about that. So you have no... So this is the way it was run. So the first week I said, no, this is unacceptable. And in January, we decided that we were going to get software and put software in to eliminate this problem completely. That software will also give access to the department heads to their own budget information, which they didn't have as well. So they didn't know what they were operating in the dark. It was pulling teeth to get it done, and and a lot of it was the institutional inertia. They didn't want to change the way they were doing things up there. Right. So that changed. So that has changed. Right. And I think that also and the culture up there changed, and that went with the old controller, which was to me a big plus. Now we're working with 1.5 less positions in the controller's office, getting the same work and more work done. And with department heads actually having information to their budgets, which made this budget process this year a lot smoother as well. Right. So there are changes that are being made. We're looking to do the same thing with digitizing all our data as well. Right. Which is a great thing to do. One of the requests I got was for microfiche. Right. Microfiche. Microfiche. We still do stuff on microfiche. Was that like the 60s? I don't know. You can't even get replacement parts for the machine. It's like almost like a half century ago. But it was all so we've made some headway, and again I'm looking forward. Next couple of weeks I'm going to lay a little bit low. Yeah, well, you deserve it. And then recharge your batteries. And then next year to pick up and all the initiatives. And make sure that we start to push them forward. Looking at the highway garage, we've got a lot of interest in it. Yeah, which is a great idea too. Yeah, and we got an interest in it. And the thing is, it's going to be, it should be a financial gain for the town. Right. So we're taking a look at a lot of different things, and hopefully with a lot less distractions for next year. Except it becomes silly season again. And then, well, you can't help that. But anyhow, so Supervisor
Grace, congratulations on a very successful and effective
thank you for all
first
your
year.
assistance.
It's my privilege to work with you, and I think everybody who pays attention at least agrees that things definitely have gotten better in your first year in office, and then we have more good things to look forward to.
Hopefully.
Health, and if we don't see you, by the way, healthy and happy and prosperous and peaceful New Year to everybody.
Yeah. And a very Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas,
out there, and keep safe and enjoy the holidays, and keep your family close.
That's right, exactly. It's as we've been reminded, that's the most important thing. Absolutely.
When I go to Father Augustine up at St. Pat's, he always says, "How are you doing today?" He goes, "I'm alive, well, and kicking." And I think, it's a very nice thing to know that that's that's all you really need to be happy.
That's right. It's like they say, thank goodness for small favors. Right? Anyhow, you have been watching Grace Notes with Supervisor Michael Grace. I'm Bruce A. part of Chase Media Group. Again, have a very happy holiday season, and be sure to watch us next time and every time, because Yorktown is your town. Thank you.